drones, we work on mobile robots, we work on humanoids.
Keir Starmer evangelised for artificial intelligence today. He said it had vast potential to help public services and the economy if the government harnessed it.
So this is the instrument.
Some economic indicators suggested that might be very much needed. The cost of government borrowing, as shown by the 10-year gilt price, has been steadily rising since Rachel Reeves' first budget. And the value of the pound has been steadily falling against the dollar, driven by market expectations of a Trump presidency. But the UK seems to be having a tougher time than some.
Will Rachel Reeves be your Chancellor for the duration of this Parliament?
Rachel Reeves is doing a fantastic job. She has my full confidence. She has the full confidence of the entire party.
Rachel Reeves is just back from a trip to China. Treasury sources last week said any shortfall in government cash would be made up from spending cuts, not tax rises or additional borrowing. Keir Starmer today echoed that.
Yes, we will be ruthless, as we have been ruthless in the decisions that we've taken so far. We've got clear fiscal rules, and we're going to keep to those fiscal rules.
But Keir Starmer's central message was that he embraced artificial intelligence and the transformation of public services it could bring.
A force that will turbocharge every single element of our plan for change. The defining opportunity of our generation.
Keir Starmer said AI could take over admin, leaving public sector workers more time to deliver services. And alongside public sector reforms, it might even rescue his government from having to balance the books with public sector cuts. Public sector reform won't deliver the sort of benefits that you're looking for fast. Neither will AI. That could take 10 years, a lot of people think, to actually deliver on the investments you hope to put in. So if you're absolutely sticking to the fiscal rules, that means you're coming back for spending cuts, doesn't it?
I don't think it's going to take 5 or 10 years to double productivity, not for a moment. And I've spent many, many hours pushing this around with AI experts to test those propositions. And I'm absolutely confident that the timeframes we're talking about here are much, much shorter than that.
I would say they will be lucky to get a real return on investment in this Parliament. Before they were elected, when they were the shadow government, they were talking about 2 governments to do this.
Keir Starmer was speaking at the Olympic Park, built when AI was in its infancy. He contrasted his own positive approach to AI with the excessive caution of Rishi Sunak and the European Union. You were talking about being able to regulate in a new way, an independent way. Do you see your freedom there as a Brexit benefit? Are you pleased that you can regulate in a different way? Some people probably expected you as Prime Minister to tack a little towards the EU. It sounds here as though you might be tacking a bit away.
Well, look, I think it is important to recognise that we've got the freedom now in relation to regulation to do it in the way that we think is best for the UK, and that's what we intend to do. You're right to say there are different models around the world. There's a sort of EU approach or a US approach, but we have the ability to choose the one that we think is in our best interest.
We were a bit surprised at the tone. We see there's a lot of excitement, but if if the UK is to be in the driving seat of AI, we need to know the brakes are working.
Yes.
This speech kicks off a series of pro-growth government interventions, which Keir Starmer's team hope will help to spur improved economic figures. But no one can be sure they will.
Gary Given reporting. Well, a senior Labour cabinet minister says he has full confidence in Tulip Siddiq, who's been coming under increasing pressure to resign. Pat McFadden said Ms Siddiq had done the right thing by referring herself to the Prime Minister's ethics czar for investigation over allegations about properties linked to her aunt's political movement in Bangladesh. She said that she was clear that she had done nothing wrong. So how deep a hole is the government really in? Well, with me now is our economics correspondent, Helia Ibrahimi. Helia.
Well, Matt, as Gary was saying, the government's telling a story, right? You know, in terms of economics, they're in squeaky bum territory. You know, the last 2 weeks has been rather uncomfortable from an economic data front, and investors are now all waiting to see what happens with inflation and growth later this week. But every time the market moves, money gets tighter. Rachel Reeves' fiscal rules have renewed pressure. And don't forget, the OBR is out there going to do their forecast very shortly. So on top of that, you've got a government that is going out there trying to raise billions of billions in gilts. Last week they were in the gilt market. This week they're again in the gilt market. So they need the markets to believe this story. Hence, you've got the Prime Minister's line about wanting to mainline AI if it delivers growth. Today, one analyst at Deutsche Bank said the spectre of stagnation was looming for Britain. Now, Matt, that is terrible for all of us, but this is a government that has made growth its #1 mission. All of its math, all of its political clout falls apart if they don't deliver on it.
But is this just about the UK or are there other factors here?
No, look, there is a global trend going on. There is no doubt that raised inflation expectations is pushing up yields across the world. You can see since the start of the year, the UK has seen gilt yields go up 29 basis points. It's not far off in the US, by the way. You can see they've gone up 0.21 basis points. Tariff fears have put those up. But also, the economic data in the US has been good, better than expected. Things like the job markets. That has moved gilts all across the world, in Europe, including in Germany. It all adds up to a rather insane debt interest bill for the UK by the end of this Parliament of £132 billion. So to your question of is the UK alone? No, we're not alone, but it's a bit like that Warren Buffett quote. You know, it's not until the tide goes out that you see who's swimming naked. Well, I'm afraid the tide has gone out.
And we're not wearing much, are we, at the moment? OK, Hayley Ebrahimi, thank you very much indeed. Well, the Science and Technology Secretary, Peter Kyle, joins me now from Westminster. Peter Kyle, thank you very much for coming on the programme. It's pretty grim, isn't it, at the moment? And I just wonder whether, with all the grim news that Hayley just outlined on the economic front, whether the magic of AI is really going to work for us in that way, the way that the Prime Minister outlined today.
Well, the magic only isn't in the AI. The magic is in how we're going to harness it and use it for the good of all, including our economy. Today, we've announced a plan as part of our plan of change, an AI opportunities action plan that will create AI growth zones, investment zones right around the country. We've created a new council so we can bring the voice of AI into the energy future strategic planning of our country. And we've also unveiled £14.5 billion worth of investment into our economy that's coming in today. That's on the back of £24 billion of investment into AI since we took office 6 months ago. So when you say magic, there is investment in the tens of billions that are going into our economy now because of the actions of this government. Now, in terms of how AI will unfold, we are not going to sit on the sidelines. We are going to be active participant using the power of government to make sure that all communities from around the country benefit from the infrastructure, and then all people, all industries, and then government itself benefits from the power of AI going forward for the public good, for our health and the wealth of our country.
And I don't know if you heard Gary Gibbons' question to the Prime Minister. I think you were there, actually. This is a benefit from Brexit, isn't it? Because we can basically say goodbye to some of the regulations that Silicon Valley has criticised, in the EU. But I wonder if we move too far towards Silicon Valley, we're going to have trouble with the EU.
Well, actually, the truth is that we have different ways of expressing our national interest outside of the EU than we did inside. They had a different set of tools then. We have a different set of tools now, and we are using those tools. Of course, we would use everything we possibly can. Now, what we are not doing is weakening the safety, the protections we put around our citizens and we put around our country.
But how can we trust you on that? We're dealing with Elon Musk as a massive AI investor. He is hell-bent on toppling this government.
Well, look at the
people like him.
Look at the facts. Over the summer, there were arrests made for online activity. The Online Safety Act is still being implemented. I have implemented new powers to tackle deepfakes. I have used new powers to tackle intimate image abuse, what's called revenge porn. I've introduced a statement of strategic intention to the Ofcom, to the regulator, to insist that they do more to keep children safe online and vulnerable people online. In the coming months running up to summer, the platforms and content creators must make sure that all of their content is age appropriate. Otherwise, there'll be very tough measures inflicted on them. But so all of these things we're doing, none of what we're doing domestically changes. For what reason? Because I want people to feel safe, I want people to be safe, and once they feel safe, people will be out there safely exploring all the potential that this new technology online and in terms of AI
that all sounds
offers.
great. That all sounds great, but a lot of the investment will come from the United States, and we know from the statements made by Mark Zuckerberg last week, and of course Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, they don't like excessive regulation. They won't even look at us in terms of investment if we don't whittle down that regulation, and that is counter to the interests of British citizens, is it not?
but Matt, I don't like excessive regulation. Of course I don't. No business does. No person going about their lives.
They think even a little bit is excessive.
Well, no, that's not entirely true, because you heard also Mark Zuckerberg say last week that he needs to do more and will do more to tackle illegal content and take it down, and also to keep children safe. So what we need to do is get the balance right. And I think we are in that sweet spot as a country at the moment. And don't just judge my words. As I said, £14 billion worth of investment from private sector investors into our economy was announced today. I haven't changed the regulation in order to get that. What I've done is make sure that the investors know just what is great about our country, the fact that we have huge potential as a country that's not yet being met by its government, and we are actually striving to do so.
Peter Carl, you heard Heli Ibrahimi there quoting Warren Buffett, when the tide goes out, we get to see who's swimming naked. Let's be honest, we're swimming at the moment without a stitch of clothing on, aren't we?
No, that's absolutely not. I'm not going to extend the metaphor because, who knows where it'll take us. We are doing really well as a country.
No, we're not. Excuse me. Growth is stagflation, borrowing costs. I mean, I outlined it at the beginning of the show. All the data is looking miserable, is it not? Business has lost confidence. This is not the way it was supposed to go.
What we're all doing is living the history of the Tory party that we inherited. We inherited an incredibly difficult circumstance. Now, we are doing something different to the Tories. While they were managing the decline, we have found ways with the budget which Rachel Reeves brought in to fix the foundations of our country. We have found ways of investing. Our R&D budget as a country, as a government, is up 8.5%, investing in the industries of the future that will create the innovations that will create the jobs and wealth of the future. Today, we have announced a plan that is unleashing billions of pounds today into our economy, and into the future, into the medium term, from the short term, and into the long term, we will capture the power of AI to increase productivity in our public services, in government, but right across our economy, we are making it available to businesses large and small that will create new jobs, new wealth, and make life in the workplace far more better and satisfying than it currently is. These are good things, and it's happening now, Matt.
Well, and we should watch if it actually happens. Just very briefly, your anti-corruption minister, Tulip Siddiq, is under investigation for corruption. Should she resign?
What she should have done is what she did do, which is refer herself to the independent commissioner. That independent commissioner has more powers and more independence because of this government, and we will adhere to any of the outcomes that that commissioner comes to the conclusion of.
OK, indeed. Peter Carl, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.